Welcome to the Empowered Embodiment Revolution, where women leaders reveal how to liberate yourself from body battles so you can follow your heart, own your power, and shine in the world. I'm Darlene Downing. I am your host for this event, and I'm just delighted to be here with you today. I have with me Erika Watson, and Erika is the leader of the Sacred Strut Movement and guides women and men in their awakening to honor their bodies, actualize their sacred power, and fulfill their heart's desires with more grace, confidence, and pleasure. She is the creator of the L.E.A.P formula, a tribal truth sisterhood circle facilitator, and an Access Consciousness Bars practitioner and trainer. With the wisdom she carried through her decades of training in personal, spiritual, and business development, matched with her own unique medicine and unconditional love, Erika empowers her clients to embody their sacred strut and transform the limitations, unconscious blocks, and self-sabotage tripping them up from living their freed life. She believes that every person is capable of receiving their dream life, regardless of their past or diagnosis, and is devoted to supporting those ready to embrace their calling. Believing we are ultimately connected, she plays on both the individual and community levels, deepening the intimacy within our own hearts and each other as we create the lives and world we wish to see. Welcome, Erika. I am just thrilled to have you here today.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here with you. And all the women listening, and men too, that are tuning in today.
Yes, we don't want to forget those beautiful men. It is. So, you know, first of all, my heart's just so happy reading what you're up to in the world, and I can't wait to hear more about the Sacred Strut movement that I know is just near and dear to your heart. Before we dive into that, I would love to start our conversation with getting your perspective on what you feel empowered embodiment is, how you define that.
To me, the empowered embodiment is really that cultivation and union of the spirit of your heart wisdom with your physical being. We are spirits having this human experience and living in this physical world, and we are so honored to be able to have this physical temple that oftentimes is not honored or treated the way that you and I want for the women listening and for ourselves. And so it almost becomes a mirror of what we are creating in our realities. So to be in that empowered, embodied space is to really be in that place of personal power, connected with your innermost knowing, connected with your desires that you want to manifest, and then aligning how you're treating your own physical body so that you can birth that into this physical realm that we are in.
What a gorgeous, gorgeous definition. I love that. And yes, that's so much how I feel as well, and that is the message that I so love to convey in some way through all of your wisdom that you'll be bringing and the other speakers. I know myself, I didn't always feel that way, and so I'm wondering, would you be willing to share a little bit with the listeners about what your journey has been in your body? Yeah,
I definitely didn't always feel that way. In fact, for a long time, I felt like my body was getting in the way of all of my spiritual desires. And I could remember praying for a really long time just to get over, the body battle that I was having and the hatred and the torment I felt about being in my skin that I really felt kept me separate from achieving the life that I wanted, whether it was, cultivating friendships, romantic partnerships, being visible in my leadership. I felt so trapped and anxious and focused on my body that my ability to even have dreams larger than what I was currently experiencing was being really contained, by how much kind of torment was going on for me. My journey really was that about, well, I guess 2 years ago now, I kind of came to the slow ending of a 14-year relationship with bulimia, which was basically a daily practice for me. And from the outside, everything looked great and fine, but on the inside, I was, in hiding. I was full of terrible shame. To spend that much time of your life consumed with food and purging, and it just, as that journey ended, I just was able to open up to so many other things. But for the longest time, that was really my relationship and my way of being in the world. There's lots of reasons, I guess, why I started. I'm a twin, and so growing up, I always felt like there was this comparison of myself and my sister, and my identity in the world was based on, or so I thought, was based on what I looked like. People were always kind of saying, oh, you're, the taller one, or the shorter one, or you're the thinner one, or you're the prettier one, or whatever category they gave to each of us. And so my identity sort of kind of got wrapped into, well, which twin am I in the world? And really, as I lost some weight in my high school years and started receiving all of this attention around that, I think I really just hung on to that as my safety, and then created this habit of purging. And then, on the other side of that too is I'm an empath, and I'm very sensitive and cognitive of the environment around me and other people's energies. But growing up, I wasn't so aware of that, or I didn't know how to cultivate, the healthy boundaries within myself. And so food and purging became that way of actually, getting rid of the other people's stuff that I was holding in my system, or the emotions that I couldn't really tolerate anymore. So, I really honor it as this amazing way that kept me safe and kept me, going in the world. And at the same time, it was a really long and hard journey that for that many years, I actually didn't know if it would ever get better. I actually didn't know what life would be like to not even have it in my day-to-day space. And now it's like I don't even think about, gorging on food, or, and I can, once in a while I joke about, eating my emotions, but because it's so far from me, I know that I can do that now. But it's a blessing to be where I am right now. And I know that there are many women who have suffered and a lot of shame and silence around their own eating disorders, or how they felt about their body. So it's
Absolutely.
kind of, yeah.
Absolutely. And thanks for bringing to the conversation the piece with your empathic sensitivity to what was going on around you. That I am energetically sensitive and never had a word for that or an understanding for that. And, the purging would be, getting rid of that excess energy that you were taking in. And it's an awareness that's really helpful for a lot of women to hear, who could be going through something like this, like that there's something wrong with you. It's that it's your body's way of trying to protect you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. What was it that was the turning point for you? Was there one defining moment where something happened or came into your world that allowed you to heal from this?
It was I think it was that whisper deep in my heart that knew that this wasn't my truth. It wasn't going to be my only experience. When you're dealing with it for that many years, that many moments in your life, you have a lot of, okay, this is the last time, and I'm going to do this differently, and I'm going to, try this thing. And, as I continue to walk forward, I continue to make a commitment to myself around, okay, what do I want more? And so I started to think about more long-term than immediate gratification. So, like, for instance, I was feeling really restless or sad or something, and my go-to was to, go gorge on food and purge that feeling, I thought about, okay, well, how do I really want to feel long term? So I started to look more, I started to expand my vision and hold that energy and try to hold that container for my life. And so then I would be able to put in certain practices, or, if I cultivated a certain ritual in my life, which we'll talk about in a little while, I was able to then ride that wave of emotion, and the moment would pass. And, it was a journey of cultivating a lot of compassion and forgiveness, and I think also getting really clear on my purpose and being, exercising vulnerability really helped me on the journey. The more that I could ask for support, the more that I could express my feelings, the less I was turning to this behavior to fulfill all of those needs for me. So the more, I could cultivate the qualities of what it is to be, a feminine leader in a way, took the place of that being my companion. And then the other thing that really helped, I can think, kind of seal the deal for me as far as really letting go of that behavior pattern was when I took Jenna LaFlemme's pleasure immersion. And Jenna teaches pleasurable weight loss. And at that point, my journey of bulimia had really come to more of an end. It was more of like these sort of episodes once in a while where, funny enough, it was always when it was with like near the full moon and the energy was really thick. And, we can really track these things if we pay attention to our cycles and how we are living in harmony with nature, etc. But I didn't want them to be my experience anymore. And what I also found was I had switched from, this relationship with binging and purging to alcohol. And so I really wanted this way. I really wanted to be clear, and I wanted to be aligned, and I wanted to be honoring my body and not feel restless inside. And through pleasure immersion and bringing in, really committing to that idea of pleasure and that idea of joy and grace, it really helped to open up my way of how I was going into situations and how I was looking to cultivate the sacred within my own life. And from that vibration, the sabotaging behaviors and the numbing out fell even more wayside. So I think, it was a journey of lots of, what I would call my holistic rehabs and, trying one thing or next, acupuncture, acupressure, yoga, meditation, calling up my theta healer, my channel. I had my team of people whenever I was in this moment where I couldn't access my truth anymore. And so, luckily I also gained a lot of tools so that I could become self-sufficient in my own navigation. But yeah, so it wasn't just one defining moment, but it was, I give honor to everyone that has supported me along the way to be here.
Yes, absolutely. And any of us who've had these challenges, just like you have had this big challenge to overcome, the gift that's come on the other side, who you've become as a result of it, and all these tools that you now have. I love so much about what you shared, Erika. You are an inspiration to me with how you lead from a space of vulnerability, and that you just show up as who you are, and that is like a balm for so many women. If you've been playing this game of thinking you need to be perfect, which was certainly one that I had played for a long time, and to be able to just be who you are, thank you for that.
Thank you, yeah. And I will say for anyone that is going through any sort of body battles to feel, more called to look for people that you admire and to be able to go into these sacred, containers and talk about your feelings and support one another. I know in the beginning of my journey when I kept it hidden for a long time, and a couple of the instances where my first boyfriend found out, or a home that I was babysitting in found out, they basically left me, for their own safety and security, or what they thought of, what was happening. And I was really devastated by certain, members that were close to me in their inability to hold me as still whole, and maybe for whatever reason it was in their own pain body that wanted to create that distance. But it was very devastating and lonely journey in some ways, and so that's another reason why I feel so pulled to share, is because I know for a lot of years I didn't have people in my life that talked about this. And then as I began to share, when other women began to open up, and I was like, oh, like if I only knew about you, or I only knew how many women were actually affected by this, I wouldn't have felt like such a monster all those years, and maybe I wouldn't have pushed love away as much as I had in my life.
Yes. And that's such a good point that you brought up, that to be in that space of vulnerability, which is where the healing can begin, if you choose to be vulnerable with the wrong people, then you could get the reaction that you got and just say, oh, well, there's something wrong with me. And no, it's not. It's just being discerning on who you can be safe sharing that with until you get stronger, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, I would love for you to share with us what you're up to with the Sacred Strut Movement a little bit more. And we touched on it when I asked you what it was that was supporting you and moving beyond the battle that you were having with your body by creating ritual. So would you like to talk about that a little bit? What is ritual and why is it important in honoring our bodies?
Yeah, so it's funny, I was doing a little bit of prep yesterday and thinking about what ritual means to me, and I Googled the definition of ritual, and it was just so dry, and it was like, it's a series of, I can read it actually, activities involving gestures, words, and objects performed in a sequestered place, performed according to a set sequence, and I'm like, that's not ritual.
It's not juicy at all.
Yeah, who's going to want to play with ritual? I got to rewrite the dictionary when I have more time. But for me, ritual is really that cultivation of this divine energy that flows through all of us, whether we are in a religious practice where, our ritual is to go to church every Sunday, or it's to say grace before every meal. For the pagans and the Wiccans, they like to be in ritual around, the earth and the cycles of the moon. But really for me, it's about what I talked about earlier with that embodied empowerment. It's that union between the spiritual and the physical. And for me, there is this acknowledgement that there is this divine sacred energy that flows through us, that flows through, every living thing, every molecule. We are all divine and one. And so it's that connection to that vibration where the miracle can occur, where the manifestation can occur, and to where we can really be in that living flow and that harmony for ourselves, and in touch with the power that we have to create the life in the world that we want to experience. So for me, the ritual is that kind of grounding cord and that remembrance and that place where we step into that container.
It's purposeful, right?
Right. Yeah. You can just even feel the difference. Before we started this call today, I lit a candle as this entering of the space together, and for me, that flame, really, speaks to me about. It's very calming, first of all, but it also really speaks to me about the light that we're carrying here on this mission, and the work that we're doing together right here, so that light can continue to burn in the hearts of the people listening. When we end this, I'll blow out the candle, and I can feel great that this container was whole and complete, and that it can go then and do the job it's meant to do, and I can move on to the next part and feel as connected and present with that part of my day. So, for me, ritual has really allowed me to stay present, and it allows me to stay open, and it has strengthened my awareness to myself and to my surroundings, which, with that strength and awareness comes the clarity and the direction and the confidence that we need to listen to where our next steps might be leading us, whether it's in business or in love or in health. And, unfortunately, when we aren't connected to the power within ourselves to create the life that we want, or we aren't as connected to our surroundings, our physical bodies are the ones that start, getting beat up. It's like when we're on autopilot and, we turn and we're not paying attention and we almost hit the biker, or, we're not paying attention, to how we're feeling, and all of a sudden we're starving and we're ravenous and we're in this I'm going to consume all this food mode, or we're not paying attention to how we're feeling, and or we don't deal with our anger, and suddenly we have cancer in the body. So I know, we're talking about how can we be in this empowered place of embodiment and get over the body battles, and I really believe that it is about cultivating more presence in our life. And ritual for me is a place where I can do that and feel empowered in myself, and in some ways control, not control, of my surroundings. But I guess the better word would be in co-creation and communication.
It's beautiful. I love it. And, you're right about us being so busy going on to the next thing that we do live very much on autopilot. And what I love about what you're bringing to the conversation with ritual is purposeful, it's mindful, and it brings significance. And some people say, well, don't make it significant, what you're making something significant. For me, when I say significant, I mean that I'm fully engaging in what it is I'm getting ready to participate in, and it gives it more meaning to me. And that's what I feel like you're sharing, that's what's possible with ritual. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. It's and, we start to become filled up by the tasks that we have at hand when we can bring in these qualities to it, when we can have reverence for the things that we're doing. And so there's this place of satisfaction and appreciation that I feel like we can receive when we are in this sacred energy. And, gratitude and appreciation is one of the quickest ways to get back into that vibration of what it is that we want to attract into our life, right? And so it's just a great way for us to stay really grounded in that energy and focus, so that when the chaos is going on, we're clear, we feel grounded and solid, and we can, stand in the wind, we can be available to what's going on and continue to stay focused on the task that we're doing or what it is that we want to create. And I think that in our businesses, especially if we're growing our businesses, we're creating our email lists, etc., these ideas of bringing ritual into our business can be very helpful as well. Really, like I lit the candle, that time when you are going to write that email to your community, really creating that cultivated space and that connection between you and the people you really are here to serve, and getting into that heart space first will create a much different tonation and energy of how you are writing and being with your audience, rather than when you're still stuck in your head and you're still thinking about how you missed breakfast and you're wired on coffee and you're all these things, and then you send your email and it'll be more flat. So ritual will add that juiciness, that divine essence that is available through us when we are connected to the divine and the sacred.
Yes, absolutely. Well, so since we're not all in this habit of being connected to ritual, what is it that's going to get in our way for us to start to bring this into our life more? What are the common blocks?
Yeah, so, one of the most common things that I find for anyone, the excuse is I don't have time. And, time is one of those things that, it's unlimited and it's limited. There's 24 hours in a day and et cetera. And how we can set up our day and actually expand time, I found, is in creating these rituals. And it's funny how we can make time to really get honest with ourselves and say, well, what are we making time for in our lives? And is it actually creating the most juicy results for us, or is it something that we think we should be doing, we think we have to be doing it, everyone else is doing it, or we haven't really learned how to create a level of self-care or boundary for ourselves, and we're still harvesting guilt every time we put ourselves first. So really looking at the context of, okay, in reality, what do we really do have time for, and what is also just an excuse because we still haven't gotten to the place where we can put ourselves first. Secondly, I think that I hear people, say, I don't want to be so woo-woo, or I don't want to seem too far out there. I know, in my home, there are feathers, there are crystals, and there are candles, and there are altars, and there are all these pieces of remembrance and honor of the energies that we want to cultivate in our lives, whether it's the statue of Kuan Yin and compassion, or rocks and etc. And I have certain friends that come in, and they grew up in a family where it was like football and sports and beer drinking, and in my home it's like there's beautiful music playing, and there's like this and there's candles and incense going, and they're like, okay, what's going on here? It's and it's even more scary at Halloween. Exactly. So but feeling really clear and connected to what is going to what lights you up, what feels good, what ignites your senses, and to not care if you're too far out there. Again, you're going back then into the judgment and giving someone else the power over you to create your own life. So I think that's another thing that people look at, or they don't want to be seen like a witch in the world. Witches were burned at the stake for their work and their medicine in the world. And so there's a lot of stigma around playing with that energy, or just even believing that things are going to work. It's like, I'm so grateful that in the world more and more people are using flower essences and really understanding the energetic properties of these living things in the world, and how to bring them into our space so that we can heal our bodies, and we can find more calmness in our mind when we take a sniff of a certain smell, and just really bringing in that energy. And for some people, I think they've forgotten. And so it's like, and that to me is so sad, that they've really forgotten how to be with wonder, how to be with magic. And it just shows me even more how much this conversation is needed, so that we can get back to that place where we do remember who we are and what we all are. And for me, that remembrance really came, and why I call it the Sacred Strut Movement. And this is a ritual that's not so woo-woo and far out there, but for me, it was taking this daily walk that I took. And the reason I actually started walking was because I was in pleasure immersion, and I was in this relationship, and my heart just broke at this one point. And I was saying goodbye to this relationship. And my MO right away, like I could feel that old trigger of me wanting to run to food, because I hadn't experienced a pain like this in a while, and I could feel that trigger wanting to come up. And I was like, no, I've done so much work around this, and I have gotten to such a place where I feel so great in myself, and like, I'm not going to, go back to food. I'm not going to gain 5 pounds because of him. Like, I'm not. So, and I just ran down to the beach, and I just cried. I'm like a couple blocks from the beach, and anytime I felt myself going to this place where I just couldn't feel peaceful in my body, I went for a walk, and I gave myself that space. I said, I don't care what it is, what time of day it is, what else I think I have to do, I'm going to go for a walk. And that week I actually walked 50 miles. I had 50 miles. I walked like every day up and down the boardwalk. I had my phone calls with my clients or my business JVs on my cell phone while I walked. And I just walked, and I just kind of healed my heart in that way of walking. But what opened up for me was this space of just pure connection with my heart and what I was feeling, and this connection with my surroundings. And I was walking by the beach, and I started to notice more and more just certain patterns going on throughout the day. And then I, continued walking because I felt so good. And I vowed to walk every night that summer. And as I did, I started getting more and more connected to the season changing. And I was cultivating my own inner priestess, and I was, cultivating this sacred energy, and I was connecting again, and I started seeing like the energy around plants again, and I started really noticing this oneness with everything that I had felt so lost in before, because I was kind of just in my day-to-day, or focused on certain aspects. I had lost touch of this connection. And the cool thing that came through that experience as well was that I channeled my first program. I used to teach marketing, and now I've moved more into the personal development and personal empowerment mode rather than just affiliate marketing. And that was all a divine download that came from me creating this space for that consciousness to flow through. And I think that is so important for all of us in our lives, to have that space for us to come back home to ourselves, to hear, the wisdom that wants to come through, the leadership that wants to come through, the desires that want to come through for us to, focus on and create. And so often that excuse, we don't have time, or I'm too busy, or etc., we are bombarded by all these different things in our head, and we don't actually clear the space for us to hear our truth and get connected to that. So that Sacred Strut movement came because I was literally like strutting my stuff, thinking about who I wanted to be, and bringing in that energy. And I can tell you, like, my life really did transform from that. My sense of my own pride and accomplishment and confidence in committing to something as well. Like before that, I think, my bulimia had always made me step out of a game. I had this idea that I wasn't really able to commit to something, that I wouldn't ever be able to follow through on something. And so as I committed to that ritual of walking, I think the same thing about like religion. It's like, it's not what the religion does for you, it's who you become as you're practicing that faith. And the same thing, as I started to practice this ritual, who I became in that commitment and what showed up for me in my receiving that, it's made me who I am, and I'm so honored about that. And it's something where I do feel so passionate. Like, I want every woman that feels like she needs to get back to her truth to take a walk around the block and to see what opens up for her, to see what it is to be in wonder of her environment again, and to see how the world interacts with her, and for her to try on different personalities and see what lights her up, and to give herself that space to explore who she is and to feel that divine connection is a really beautiful gift. And on the other side too, all that walking last year, I was able to lose 20 pounds. So it wasn't like I had to hit it at the gym really hard, and it wasn't about counting calories, but it was honoring my body in that way that when I had that breakup, I did not want to go back to food. I'm going to do something that is going to ground me in a new way, that's going to be honoring to me and to the thing I want to create in my life. Well, sure enough, it happened, and it happened with ease, and it happened with a lot of fun, and a lot of beauty and joy. And yes, there were walks where I cried and listened to love songs the whole time, and but it was the space I needed to get back to me, and it was the container I needed to cultivate what I have today. And it's a practice. And I think that the thing about having a self-practice or a ritual or a habit that you can do for yourself is something that no one else can take from you. Is that place of just pride and that container that you can go anywhere in the world and you can feel safe, and you can be who you are, and you can show up and express your gifts, and you are connected to yourself. And so I just, I love the idea of walking, because I think many people can do it and don't appreciate the simplicity of it. And I think there are a lot of other rituals that we can cultivate in our life to keep us grounded in the day-to-day, and in the energy of what it is that we want to create for ourselves.
It's so cool. The whole story is so cool, how it evolved, how you made the choice of, I'm not going back down that path. What is something else I can do to support me? And the Sacred Strut evolved. And I love how you were in that receiving mode, yet you were still moving your body, and so you were blending with the masculine and the feminine there, and you were fully embodying that space for yourself with the walk, but you were actually physically doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to hear more about trying on different energies too.
Yeah. And the fun thing is and I remember once in meditation and trying to get the mind clear, and people would say you got to sit still and learn to be still. And my mother actually had a teacher that taught about feminine meditation, and it was about dance, and it was about movement and being one with that. And I think as we can become great with that movement, there is a stillness that actually happens in my mind. I know that on those walks, some of my most peaceful states of being in my mind was when I was physically moving my body. And so I don't always agree with the whole you have to sit still to be able to meditate. I think that you can be in a walking meditation, and that is actually another gift that I got with that. It's like, we are walking everywhere. We're walking to our cars in the morning, we're walking to go to the bathroom, we're walking wherever we're walking. And so that finding that energy and that daily strut for me, it expanded into my everyday. It wasn't like, okay, I'm doing this thing, I'm at this yoga class, and now, I'm not doing this asana anymore, so I'm going to go back to being like an asshole or whatever. Like I'm going to, lose that energy. You're always walking, and so it just was something that was able to kind of merge with the other activities in my day and really keep me conscious of it.
It's brilliant. Yes, we are walking. And so as you're cultivating that sacred strut and that space, and you are really fully in your body as you're walking, and you're opening to spirit, and you're just being with yourself. Really, that's what I'm taking away from it. You're just totally being with yourself and your body in that moment. And then to be able to take that out into the world when you are, just living your life. That's super, super cool.
Yeah, and that time together with your body, like you said, I started to realize again the power of breath and the power of, you have a pain in your knee as you're walking, and you send it love and you breathe into it, and suddenly it dissipates, and you start to realize again like your profound power to create something or transform something. And so it really is this like an embodied empowerment experience as you really start to realize your connection between your thoughts and your heart and your body and what's possible.
Absolutely. And then as you do that and you see what transforms and you personally experience it, then it's another choice that can be made, right? Instead of just going into judgment or, complaining about something not working with your body or working with your life, like, wow, I wonder what else is possible for me and my body, right?
Exactly.
Oh, and the other thing I just wanted to touch on too that I love about what you're creating with ritual is that we were saying before how we just rush through life and we can just miss, so much because we're just going on to the next task, and then it's carving out that time. It's creating space of beauty and a space of gratitude, like you mentioned. And to me, that's like enjoying the journey. It's taking the time to enjoy the journey, which is the lesson I've had to learn. Yeah. Well, so would you like to share with us how we can create our own sacred strut or our own sacred ritual that we can start to carve out this time for ourselves? How would you guide us to do that?
Yeah. First of all, I would like to just invite that this be something that's going to be fun, in a creative process, and something that's going to be enjoyable as you discover, who you are and what you want to create for yourself, and that there is, not like the perfect ritual, and that if you don't get it right, that you're not going to get the result that you want, because it's really about being in that energy and creating that space and what happens through your commitment to it. For me, I would say, the first thing is kind of look at what it is in your life that you might want to have a new relationship with, whether there's a certain emotion that's going on for you that seems to be this trigger, whether it's a certain person that is in your life that you maybe want to have a better relationship with. Maybe it's something in yourself, and really start to see what you can do to honor that relationship and create a container around that. So for me, you know, like I said, it was with food. So for me, I started going on these walks. So every time I was agitated, I would walk. I created a new way of being and relating to that feeling in myself. I think another, you know, easy way of creating a ritual is, you know, just bringing in breath to certain experiences that might, where you want to cultivate more meaning or more focus for yourself or have a more magical reaction. You know, if you're, you know, before customer calls or client calls or whatnot, you know, taking a few moments to meditate or breathe or get into your heart space. I think that adding elements of the earth or, you know, the elements are really a fun way of getting into ritual. So, you know, like I said, we have a lot of feathers in my house and crystals, you know, everything is like a little altar. And I think like another last cool example is maybe creating an altar for yourself. You know, if you are, one of the things I loved that I did in Pleasure Immersion actually was we created a family altar, and it was about really honoring the relationship between our mothers and fathers and the way, you know, they brought us into this world so that we could find, you know, forgiveness for how maybe they parented us, but also see them in their divine humanness and also see them in all the gifts they really brought to us. And so, you know, I had this altar where I had pictures of me with my mom and my dad at like a young age, and then as I got older, and I look at these pictures and I see the smiles on their face, and I think about them in a way that is honoring who they are. Not like, you know, I'm so mad that they forgot this birthday or they didn't do this. You know, I was really being in that space of just honor and gratitude. And, you know, being able to find that with them, I was then able to find all the areas of myself that I was, you know, in pain around, that was, you know, because I was, you know, which I would blame them on because they didn't do this for me or that, you know, the qualities that I picked up, I learned to have this new sense of compassion and love for myself. And so I think creating your own altar, which is just like a little space in your house where maybe you can put, you know, some images of the things that you want to remember. If there's a certain, you know, to like God or goddess or that has a certain quality around like compassion or, you know, around fertility, if you're wanting to get pregnant, you know, just bringing in these images that hold a certain essence and bringing that into your daily, you know, life will create a whole different effect on how you move throughout the day.
Oh, it's so great. And when you were sharing about the altar for your family, I'd never even considered that. And then as you were describing it, the energy would be completely different when you're with those people after you've set that energetic container of seeing them for the divineness that they are and the you know, and accepting their humanness. I just love that, Erika.
Thank you. I guess that's probably a really good one to do now as the holidays come up and we're often with family that sometimes we don't always see, or we go back into those childhood patterns. It'd be great to spend some time really honoring each member of your family in that way.
Yes, you should probably do a special workshop on that coming up for the holidays.
I will. Awesome. Thank you. What else is possible?
What else is possible? Absolutely. I love it. So those are some great tools that everyone can take away right now. So whatever it is that you're wanting to shift energy around, you can, if it's, you know, with food or if it's with people in your life, or what about even with yourself? I mean, a quality in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, actually, that's one thing that people have, I've had some people laugh at. They're like, you have so many profile pictures of yourself. And for a long time, like I was like the queen of selfies and creating these images where I, you know, had my picture and I would put the words of a phrase that either I came up with myself while I was on my sacred strut. A lot of the images came through that way. Or there's, you know, just a quote that really resonated with me. And it was like that merging of that spiritual with that physical. And throughout my journey of coming to love my body and love my appearance and love who I am, which still fluctuates here and there, but, you know, the selfies actually was like this mirror where like my mind, I knew what I was hearing in my head, was not my truth, and it was not my heart. And so I would take these pictures, and I'm like, oh wow, that's a girl having fun. Look at all her friends, or and it was great because it was like I was able to stay present to what I knew was my truth, and I was almost like tracking my journey. And I could see that as I became more healed in my heart space, my radiance actually became even brighter, and I could see where, if I was hiding, like for a while, there was always like in my pictures, I would always have the same pose. It was like the side pose, like the devil eyes, because I was going to be a little bit sultry always. And I was like, okay, so what is it about this side of my face that I don't like? What am I hiding over here? Can I be more, open and vulnerable? And in my photos now with people, can I show that side of myself? Like, what is it about myself that I'm keeping hidden? So the selfies actually became a great way for me to get to know myself and see where was I still experiencing shame and not allowing myself to be fully present and open to receive people in my life, love in my life, amazing sex in my life, whatever it was. If we're hiding a part of ourselves, then we're not opening up to the pleasure that's available to live there.
Absolutely. So you created a ritual around catching yourself in all these different moments when you were tracking yourself. I love it. And you would see physically, as you began to let more and more of that go, how you would be transformed externally. It's like a journal through photos. It's so great.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I love the song about selfies. I think it's great.
I haven't heard that one yet. I guess I need to listen to that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what a fantastic conversation. And the time has just flown by too. I'm like trying to see without letting me put my glasses on here. So I know that you have extended your generosity beyond showing up for this conversation and sharing your wisdom with your journey and the Sacred Strut and how we can begin to bring ritual into our lives, that you've offered a free gift that everybody can take advantage of and dive more into your wisdom and what you have to share with the world. And we've got that link right below the video. Okay. I'm going to turn the conversation over to you and let you explain to everybody what that is.
Yeah, it's It's an ebook that I created called Reclaim Your Voice, Reclaim Your Vision, Reclaim Your Value, and 3 exercises to love your life. And it's really about that place of getting to know yourself, and also there's exercises in there that really help you to start getting focused on what it is that you dream about rather than all the shoulds out there, and then supporting you and getting vulnerable and asking for help and looking at, where are the places in your life where you haven't valued yourself, where are the places in your life you haven't stood up for yourself, and how to help support you in strengthening those muscles so that you can be the physical expression and the leader that you want to be in your life, and create it rather than it just remaining dormant inside of you.
Beautiful. Yes, to take that time to unearth those gems and let it come out. That's so great.
And I love, after, calls such as this where, I do offer the free gift, where I would love to hear from the women who are going through this. They write me and they're like, oh my gosh, this is exactly, what I needed right now, and thank you. So it's always great to have that feedback and that connection, and to know that by you receiving that gift, you are entering into the sacred container with me, and I'm here to continue to be on the journey with you.
And they can reach you at www.lovedseenheard.com, correct?
Yes.
And they'll also, with that link, it will take you to a page that's set up specifically for Erika too, you'll see, and that has her website on there too. So yes, reach out to her, let her know how it supported your life and your body.
And I will say, I might have mixed up the vision, voice, value. I sometimes do that when I'm talking, but the real title you have there. So
cool.
Being vulnerable.
Yeah, it's all good. Well,
you're reclaiming it all. Don't worry.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you again, Erika, so much for being here, for offering your wisdom, and for sharing what's evolved in your life with the Sacred Strut movement. I cannot wait to see where this goes with you. I know it's near and dear to your heart, and it's just so exciting, and it's so perfect for where we are, I think, on the journey right now. And thank you for being who you are.
Thank you. Thank you for seeing it and providing the space for it to come forward. So.
Absolutely. And thank you to all of the listeners who've tuned in for taking this time for you, for choosing to expand your world and what's possible to empower you in your body so that you can follow your heart, own your power, and shine in the world. We have more videos and tools and tips to come, so stay tuned. And until then, bye for now. Bye, everybody. Bye, Erika.
Bye. See you soon.